All right, we got three functions here, and we're going to figure out their symmetry. Everyone say symmetry?
Symmetry.
Partner A tell partner B, how do you find the symmetry of a function algebraically? Ready, set, go. Brian, enlighten us. Replace x with negative x and compare. Let's do f of x. I'm going to write the original problem down. Every time I see x, what do we write, class? Let's do that. So I have f of negative x equals 3 times negative x cubed minus 4 times negative x. Class, should I multiply by 3 or do the exponent? Exponent. PEMDAS. Right? Use PEMDAS going down to simplify. We are simplifying. So negative x times negative x times negative x is negative x cubed. And negative x cubed times positive 3 is negative 3x cubed. Negative times negative? Positive 4x. Okay, we're not done yet. When I see a negative right here, and I look at the original, it almost looks like it's the opposite. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1. Now, if you don't know what factoring negative 1 means, another way of describing it is if I distribute a negative 1, it'll get the original answer. So if I factor out a negative 1, I get 3x cubed, right? Negative 1 times 3x cubed gives me this. What am I going to put over here, class? Minus 4x. Take your favorite color highlighter. Every time I see f of x, I can write 3x cubed minus 4x. Or if I see 3x cubed minus 4x, I can write what? F of x. Class, I see 3x cubed minus 4x. What can I write now? F of x. Let's write that. Everyone say substitution. I'm just doing a substitution right here. So now I have the negative 1 of f of x. When I replace x with negative x, I get the opposite of the original problem, which tells me it's a odd symmetry. Right? That was my silly phrase. That's odd. It's the opposite of the original. It's opposite of the x. Let's punch it into our calculators. Just to clarify again, this is a subtraction sign, and I want to highlight that on here. These are your math operations, so this is subtraction, this one is negative. That is a big deal because your calculator will read it, you'll get an error. So let's type that in. 3x cubed minus 4x. And just like your quiz that you took, you should start be thinking about the graph and its characteristics before you actually graph it. Does that make sense? I don't want you to think like, I can't do anything without this calculator. Man invented the calculator. You are smarter than the calculator. You need to rediscover that. So I press zoom 6. Now, look back at your original equation. Put your finger at the y-intercept. You should have recognized that the constant, there is no constant, so what's the number? 0 is going to go through the origin. Does that make sense? Okay, let's practice changing our window. So I want to trim up the graph a little bit from the sides. So I'm going to go window, and I'm going to think -6. So again, that's when I'm pressing the negative button down here. -6, x max 6. And you might be asking, how did I get those numbers? Again, you're trying to trim up the graph, so you need to think of the numbers. So one student came up to me and asked me on the quiz, Mr. Ring, can you help me with this? I said, no, I've taught you already. So we press graph. And you can see we're getting a lot closer. Does that make sense? Let's sketch the graph. And because we're not looking for an exact graph, it's just kind of conceptually understanding what's happening. I think it's 1 up to 2, something like that. And if you mess up, here's an art lesson. Just make it thicker. Maybe that looks a little bit wider. This should not be so wide. And then you can just think about, look at that, cough drop. Does that make sense? You're rotating it 180 degrees. See that? And then we can see now graphically and algebraically how they are symmetric about the origin. Okay? Alright, let's try this one. Noor, what do I do first?
You put every x a negative x, so f of negative x.
Alright, I'm going to write the original. I need a different color pen. Okay, tell me what to write.
F of g of negative x equals 6 over 1 minus negative x power 2. And then the even power cancels the negative inside the
This way?
No, the negative x.
Yes.
It's going to cancel the power 2, it's going to cancel the negative x.
Correct.
The negative sign.
Because that basically means negative x times negative x, right?
So it's going to be the same. X over 1. 6 over 1 minus x power 2.
Good. Okay. Now what?
Which is the same. Like the negative and the positive are the same, so it's even.
G of negative x equals g of x. And she says that's the original, so it's? Even. Raise your hand if you got even. So this is where I know where some students were struggling is this. Everyone say substitution. When you're making a substitution, replacing every x value with negative x, you have to put the parentheses. Super important. Also, Nora was not tempted to do multiplication. She was not going to do the opposite of negative x because that's like a negative 1 times a negative x. PEMDAS tells us to do exponents first before multiplication. Does that make sense? Do a quick graph. Rational function. What are your two asymptotes? Vertical asymptotes? Class, what are your two vertical asymptotes? What are the two numbers it can't be? 1 and -1. Good. That's finding the domain algebraically. Does that make sense? Saying that not equal to 0, right? Just a quick graph. I don't want to spend time into this. That's an asymptote. 6 divided by 1 minus x squared. Assume 6. In class, can that be folded on the y-axis? Can you guys see it? It can fold, right? Close enough. You get the idea, right? Okay. Let's do the last one. Partner B till partner A. How do you start the problem? Jesse A, how do I start the problem? Tell me what's right. All right, simplify. Jesse. Let's do it together. What's negative x times negative x? Good, Jesse. Jesse, 2 times negative x? Pay attention. Class, is that the original problem? If I took out, let's just factor out -1. Let's see what it looks like. So, just be clear, this is not equal to h of x. Right? It's not the original problem because of the plus and the minus sign. Yes? If I factor out a negative, what do I get? Negative x squared. Yes? What goes here? Plus 2x. Is in the parentheses the original? Is it equal to the opposite of the original problem? No, because this is not. So it's not the original. It's not the opposite of the original. And then it's neither. So do what I did. Still factor out a -1 and just to double check it. Let's graph that really quickly. It's a quadratic. X squared plus 2x, assume 6. And you have a parabola shifted over to the left and down. Not going to draw a super accurate graph, but the big idea is you can see that, is it symmetrical about the y-axis? Symmetrical about the origin? The answer is no. So 3 examples, how to find symmetry both algebraically and graphically.